welcome back to The Watch.
Yep.
How are ya, Oz and Nathan?
I'm ready to get political.
Oh.
I'm ready for the spice.
Oz, you're back.
Sounds like a lawnmower.
Huh?
Sounds like a lawnmower.
I was doing a car impression.
Well, in this specific instance, we're not getting political for ourselves. We're responding to people politicizing it, specifically Rings of Power, and the lies and cope the creators are like. One of the takeaways that Nathan and myself got from the most recent trailer is that they're trying to fool you. They tried to reduce some of the obvious woke elements in it, the representation and other things, even though it was still there. They tried to hide the story behind flashy visuals, but there are still a lot of problems. Now, the creators have even said, so Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power showrunners address rumours that modern politics will influence the show. And they're specifically saying that it won't. Modern politics won't influence the show. Yet at the very same kind of day that, or close enough, that this came out, there was an interview with one of the actors. This is a lady playing the female dwarf queen, who says, "My character is the face of necessary redress and balance."
What is that? Redress and balance?
It's good.
Balancing what?
Our representation of and the problems that exist in Tolkien, that, her character is addressing that. So, here they're saying, it's not going to be political, guys, yet there's another interview, coming out the same day, that's all about politics and injecting it into Tolkien.
Did you hear about what the BBC said about the English soccer team?
No.
It was too white.
Oh, that's so racist, right? And
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, really? Yeah, right. Look at that. So the lies are blatant and they're shameless, where they know they're lying and they're just doing it as a type of damage control, because they know they have pissed off so many fans, and they're like, oh, no, it's actually not political, when oh boy, it is.
But then I feel like at the same time, then they piss off all the work people who are like, no, you promised us it would be progressive.
Exactly.
And then they do these articles of like, no, actually, we are the face of necessary balance.
So funny. So I want to go through some of this article here with the co-runner. So Lord of the Rings of Power comes loaded with expectations, something the showrunners know and expect considering the sheer popularity of J.R. Tolkien's work. However, one thing that has been brought up numerous times on online forums is the rumour that modern politics will influence the story. That's not the case. It's full stop, and then says that the rumour that modern politics will influence the story, when we have direct quotes where they say, we feel like we need to make this world, Tolkien's world, reflect the real world.
Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes. This is
so
why
full of
I what's the word I'm looking for?
Flippantly.
I'm not flippantly. This is why I flippantly say all media lies, because it's not all media. It's not.
Yes.
I just say that it might as well be, because they will straight up just say that to you so blatantly. Next week this exact same company will come out with a thing saying, okay, fine, race politics will influence it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, right?
It's the new bloody anyway.
Yeah.
Orwell's new saying, apparently.
This is like, there are three lights. This is we're getting to that point where it is so blatantly false, yet they're just saying it. And this is not the only case. I don't want to get too political, but hey, guys, we're not really going into a recession. We'll just rechange the meaning, definition of recession.
What was Winston's job again at the Ministry of Truth?
Yeah.
To change definitions?
The lies are so blatant, and it's being reflected in many aspects of society. Don't let them get away with it. You got to call them out, and we're calling this absolute bullcrap out. So listen to this. This was one of Tolkien's debate points for C.S. Lewis. Did I go down too much? Oh, no, yeah, C.S. Lewis's friend and colleague, co-showrunner Patrick McKay tells the Total Film in the new issue of the magazine, which features Lord of the Rings of Power. It was very important that what he was creating was not an allegory. He was not commenting on historical events of his time or another time. He was not trying to transmit a message that spoke to contemporary politics. He wanted to create a mythos that was timeless and would be applicable, that his word applicable, the applicability across times.
Yeah, that doesn't make
Oddly
sense.
worded, but
I disagree with Tolkien on that.
I don't.
I think at the macro level, every story has allegory.
No,
in it.
every story can be interpreted through allegory, and Tolkien says that. Like, I actually have a quote from Tolkien, just so we can understand this allegory thing a little bit better.
Well, I feel like for something to get the label of story, for it to actually make any sense, it needs to, at the macro level, at the biggest level, looking across the actual flow of events, not at the small stuff, but at the big stuff.
I think you're getting confused between theme and allegory.
So what's the difference?
So a theme is good and evil. That's you know, and then you can have deeper themes like the need to persevere under trial, and that oftentimes it's the small things in life that have the greatest impacts in combating. These are all themes. Allegory is specifically Sauron represented Hitler and World War II. And I did that as a specific allegory of World War II.
Oh, okay.
So what they're saying here is that I actually agree with what they're saying, because this is true, but what they're doing is completely contrary to this. They're saying this is supposed to be a timeless thing, yet they are specifically injecting modern politics and issues into it. And one of the big subversions of what Rings of Power is doing, which is completely contrary to the works of Tolkien, is making it less English. Tolkien was specific, like unequivocally so, that this was supposed to be an English mythology. All right, let's read exactly the quote here. So he says, I have always been seeking material, things of a certain tone and air, and not simple knowledge. Also, and here I hope I shall not sound absurd, I was from early days grieved by the poverty of my own beloved country. It had no stories of its own, bound up with its tongue and soil, not of the quality that I sought. I found, as an ingredient, in legends of other lands, there were Greek and Celtic and Romance and Germanic and Scandinavian and Finnish, which greatly affected me, but not English, save impoverished chapbook stuff. Of course there was and is all the Arthurian world, I'm talking about King Arthur, but powerful as it is imperfectly naturalized, associated with the soil of Britain, but not with English. It does not replace what I felt to be missing. For one thing, its fairy is too lavish, and its fantastical incoherent and repetitive. For another, and more important thing, it is involved in and explicitly contains Christian religion. What he goes on to say about the religion part, the Arthurian tale is explicitly religion, like the Grail, like seeking the Grail, which is literally the cup that Christ drank out of. He actually goes on to say, I am including religion, but not explicitly. It's, for reasons which I will not elaborate, that seems to me fatal. Myth and fairy story must, as all art, reflect and contain in solution elements of moral and religious truth or error, but not explicit, not in the known form of primary real world. So he's actually explicitly saying here, I don't like reflecting the real world, like having the Grail, essentially saying, and that's one of his criticisms of the Arthurian tale. And so he wanted a myth that reflected Englishness, like explicitly so, all right? And what was England like historically? I'm just going to throw that out there, right?
Historically,
lots
of white people.
Lots of white people, because who are the ethnic, like, native inhabitants of Britain?
It depends on who you're asking.
Well, you're going to find the Celts, but of course, when Scandinavians invaded, they settled there and everything like that, and they became, and then the people that, their descendants also became the natural inhabitants, everything like that. But yeah, it's very clear who the natural inhabitants, the native Britons are. And so if you want to reflect native Britannia, you might want to be true to the intents that Tolkien were doing. And what they are doing in Rings of Power is they are explicitly making it not reflective of historical Britain.
The Welsh are in the United Kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they human?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say, redheads, that's still,
They're human, but they're
Debatable.
soulless.
So Tolkien would despise what they're doing with it. And then there are other overt changes for modern politics, like what they have done to Galadriel and Elrond. Galadriel is now a piss and vinegar warrior, where she was an extremely powerful, graceful woman originally. And people adhered to her, looked to her for her wisdom, her authority, her gentleness, and all that stuff, and that was intrinsically tied to her femininity.
In fact, again, and we've said this before, but when she was offered the ring and she's like, oh, power, she's like, you know what, that's not me. That's really not me. I'm going to leave now. She literally left the Wood Elves because it was affecting her too much.
Man, Tolkien would be raging so much if he was alive and saw what they were doing to Galadriel and Elrond. Elrond was a fighter. He was in the fray.
warrior.
And now they're making him into this effeminate politician.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
I have seen enough.
You have not seen what I have seen.
I've seen my share.
I've seen enough. You have not seen what I have seen.
I just...
When that scene actually happens, we watch the show. I feel like we're gonna lose it.
Oh, my
We're gonna laugh
goodness.
so hard.
Oh, my goodness.
That was the build-up.
And so, it is expressly political, right? And so this article that we've been going through is just bold-face lies. Absolute deceit. Every single choice we've made at every turn of making this show has been to be faithful to that inspiration. Are you kidding me?
To that aspiration.
Aspiration, sorry. Faithful to that aspiration. Holy crap.
That's the biggest lie. That is.
Faithful to that aspiration. Oh, really? Okay, let's keep that in mind. Faithful to the aspiration that this reflects the world of Tolkien and not the real world. Let's see what an actress has to say on this matter. Sophia Nomvit, is Nomvit?
Sophia Nomvit.
Reed. She's the actress of the Black Dwarven Queen. It says her character in the upcoming Lord of the Rings series is the face of necessary redress and balance. If you were being faithful to the source material...
You wouldn't need to readdress anything.
Yeah, why would you need to redress or rebalance things?
Because there hasn't been black people on movies before. She's the first one.
She must be the first one.
She thinks she's the first black dwarf ever? No, Kevin Hart exists, okay?
True. The British actress said on the Amazon series would help create accessibility for generations to come.
You see, that's where it is for me. That's what I've been thinking, but only she was brave enough to say. The reason they do all these tons of massive push for diversity is because this is their plans for the future. These people are playing long game stuff, you know? And so in the future, when the world is exactly the woke, messed up bubble they want it to be, we're going to look back at this stuff and think, oh, this is just exactly what we live in.
Yeah.
It's all normal.
And if you pay attention to modern media in terms of this... creating accessibility, all right, and the redressing and rebalancing things, all right, if this was truly balanced, you would actually see a balanced result. But they're not after balance. You'll get what we're actually seeing, say, look at the Phase 4 field of main characters and everything like that. Is there 50% men and 50% women in, the leads of these things?
I mean, it depends what you count a lead.
Lead.
Even though they may be the lead role, they're definitely sidelined by the end of those series.
Yeah, but the ones coming out, you have Marvels, you have Ironheart, you have Captain America, or the main cast of Marvel heroes, look at how it's been replaced. And is it actual, 50-50? And the thing is, though, if you were to actually just... And you should never do this, what I'm about to say. What you should do is cast people who are appropriate for the role. That means if you're making a period piece of feudal Japan, you're going to probably cast mostly Japanese people.
Yeah.
You should not be seeking equality in that regard. You should just reflect what their work is and get the actors that suit it most and best, right? But that's what you should do. But if you're actually about fairness, right, you would then look at the amount of people divided by demographic in a percentage rate, the amount of actors then seeking roles, and is there an equivalent amount of black actors seeking roles in Hollywood as there are?
No.
No.
It's,
It's a much smaller
14,
percentage.
14%.
It's around 14%. And so if you're reflecting it accurately to have, give everyone a fair chance to get a role, you would have 40% of all roles in Hollywood going to black and divided like that. But that's not what they're doing. They want not only 50%, they want a majority. Okay? Yep. And so this accessibility for generations to come is only accessibility to whom they deem are worthy of getting access. Good. Anyone else not worthy?
It's a good choice of word, accessibility, because you'd have to be disabled to be a fan of this stuff.
I was going to say, when they say the word accessible, I think of closed captions and describing what's happening for deaf people. And not changing characters' appearance because it's more accessible for a different crowd.
Look what she says after this. Accessibility for generations to come as for younger viewers. So what she's saying, she thinks Lord of the Rings or anything that doesn't, any property, any show that doesn't have someone of the same appearance as a viewer is less accessible to them, which is such a disgustingly racist notion that she's trying to say that Asian people will find something less accessible if it doesn't have Asian representation or black or white. It is so racist, that notion.
Yeah, that's why Star Wars and Marvel movies are so popular in
China.
because they're just full of Chinese
the original
people.
Lord of the Rings, just black people weren't able to get into it because it didn't have huge representation of black people. That means me as a white person, I should find Black Panther, I can't get into it.
That's why
they're trying to say I should be racist and other people are racist because they have trouble getting... No, it's bullcrap. I can identify and enjoy anything regardless of race because I'm not a racist.
That's why Nathan can't get into Korean drama.
I just can't stand it. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it. I've got to cut myself before we're on the editing floor.
It's ridiculous. A story is good not because, we can identify with characters, but that's not why we enjoy story. We enjoy stories because they make sense to us.
And people are people. You connect with humanity. That's one of the bridging things about story, is that it humanizes people of other cultures that might have been considered other in the past, but because you see the humanity in them, by seeing media and other things that doesn't have you in it, you're able to connect with them as humans. This push that they're doing and this mindset that the actress has is overtly racist in its mindset. And she is disgusting for pushing this, right?
That's why I don't like The Lion King or anime. I don't have big eyes.
Yeah.
She loves
I'm not a lion. How was I supposed to connect with Simba?
I don't like cartoons because I'm a real boy.
I have to watch Black Panther in photo negative.
So, this is the mindset. This is the mindset. And then she says that the show would be their first exposure to JR. What the hell? She's honestly thinking that unless it has a black person in it, no one, like any black person, would never be exposed to Tolkien's work. That this will be their first exposure to J.R. Tolkien's universe. Oh, the hubris and arrogance of this female dog.
There was Haradrim in Lord of the Rings. They're the not North African. They're more like Arabian, Persian sort of people. And they were in Lord of the Rings. And it hinted at there was more browner, darker people down where they would be earthwise,
But see, they ended up following Sauron, and you just can't have depictions in fiction of black people being evil because that's racist, which is retarded. It's a retarded notion. People can be good or evil regardless of race.
Faramir, in the extended edition of The Two Towers, actually comments on that after they take down a force of Haradrim right in front of Frodo and Sam. Frodo says, those who would, claim to fight the enemy would let us go, and points at the Haradrim that's dead right in front of him. And then Faramir's like, he's the enemy? This man, I wonder what bribes or blackmail brought him here. I wonder what kind of man he was, what his name was. And would he rather have returned home? Stuff like that,
And even that humanizes the Haradrim.
Even though it's a dead guy right in front of you.
Yeah. So it was done with a lot of care, the previous works. And so then it goes on. Her character, Deezer, is the first female depiction of a dwarf ever shown within the franchise.
Nope.
And one of several people of colour within the cast. That's just objectively false.
One of those things is true. One of those things is the first people of colour to be shown in Lord of the Rings.
But there are people of colour in Lord of the Rings, or Haradrim, that you just mentioned.
I bumped my head the other day.
She says the first female dwarf ever depicted when The Hobbit. On Desolation of Smaug, you see the background of the thing. You see female dwarves there. When the dwarves are being expelled and you see them walking over the thing, lots of female dwarves, you know.
We have a female dwarf.
Yeah, the female dwarves are around everywhere if you just bother looking.
I shave every morning.
Oh.
They are so desperate to try and feel special that they will misrepresent the past in this franchise. It's the whole same thing of like, this is the first female superhero ever that they were going on with Captain Marvel. It's like, are these people brainless?
Yes.
What's going on? They will warp and twist reality, lie blatantly to your face. One, to make the world seem far worse than what it is, so they can be seen as virtuous in combating it, which is despicable. They actually want the world to be more racist, because then they get virtue points in fighting a boogeyman but it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
They are so incompetent that they can't find accolades and attention based on their own merit, goodness, and achievement, that they then seeks to depict the world as racist, homophobic, all these terrible things, to then claim to be a victim and get attention that way. It's disgusting.
And in regards to changing certain things, certain stories and mythos and like cultural influences, think about this, right? If they wanted to represent other cultures and other peoples, they would choose those other things. Because there's tons of African history mythos.
Yeah.
I've read a few, and there's some really cool ones, right? But why are they choosing specifically to grab ones of certain cultures, Western cultures, and destroy them?
Yeah, it's co-opting.
Because they're trying to destroy Western culture.
And if you think we're lying, look at the signs, okay? And what's interesting, they don't do it to other medias that have a very clear, I guess, representation, like Asian cinema, okay? So anyone complain that, you know, Chinese heroic epic films have all a full Chinese cast, or that samurai movies have a full Japanese cast?
Or Bollywood?
Bollywood? No one's...
They're doing Forrest Gump, and they've changed it appropriately, and no one's complaining.
So... the Bollywood Forrest Gump, that'll be epic.
Bollywood Lord of the Rings.
Those fight scenes would be so good.
Kind of already exists. Look up Bahubali.
Oh, yeah, true. And then there's like a Chinese Lord of the Rings, there's Red Cliff, but it's more historical, which is a great movie, and you should watch it. It's like all battle.
So remember, guys, this isn't political. The showrunners are saying we are focusing on representing the world of Tolkien as Tolkien described it. Listen to this quote that she says: "We are redressing the balance within the film and television, television industry, and of course this franchise, and I hope lots of franchises moving forward."
Is that a Freudian slip? Ooh. We're addressing the balance. So there was balance before, but you want to get rid of that?
Interesting. Yeah, they don't like the balance that was there, and the hypocrisy, right? You know, this lady and all this crazy crowd would cry murder if you replaced someone in Wakanda, a traditional black character, with making him Asian or even white. Or they would cry murder. But they're fine with doing it in the opposite because they're hypocrites.
They say they hate racism, yet the one white guy in Black Panther, they call him colonizer and barked at him like chimps. Like, literally, they made monkey noises at him. Remember that?
I didn't remember the monkey noises.
Yeah, me neither.
Because there's the tribe who, like, the guy dresses in the gorilla furs and stuff like that. He literally starts barking, like, ooh, 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 at the white dude. And then he's like, we'll eat you. And he's like, just kidding, we're vegetarians. Like, what the hell?
And then she says, these are the best people for the roles, but what they've done is open up the doors for people of all backgrounds to come forward and have the opportunity to rise. It's like, what? Do you think no black person has ever been in cinema these days? Do you think there's been no black leads? Like, look at Blade and stuff. Like, are these people insane? And again, they're not going for equal, opportunity, because equal opportunity just mean if you go statistics, there would always be less people in black film. There would always be less black people in film because there are less black actors trying to get the roles. That's just statistical reality, but that's not enough.
The black actors actually only slightly, like by 2 points, overrepresented in Hollywood versus the actual population, because the population of black people in America is 13 or 14%, and then for actors it's 15%. So they're slightly overrepresented, which seems to coincide with reality.
And again, they're creating oppression when there's not. It's like that there's not enough roles for black. It's like if you go in statistically, there's plenty. In actual fact, you're going for vastly more. So that's the type of equality thereafter. They're not actually that. They're addressing the balance in film and television. There's been heaps of opportunity, especially in the modern day. But when it comes to something like Lord of the Rings, it's like, there needs to be, no. This is like saying there needs to be white people in Asian film or something like that. This is specifically European English based. It's a folklore based around that heritage.
I didn't know that Denzel Washington was white. I didn't know Will Smith was white. I didn't know James Earl Jones, Sidney Poitier. Djwani has, I don't know how, something mustard name. The guy who plays the cyborg dude from Guardians of the Galaxy, I forget his name. It's Djwani or something.
I can't remember.
Anyway, there's tons of black actors. We all know them. And
yeah, and then she goes on to say, to be part of creating accessibility for generations to come. She's just full of crap. But she's praising herself. This is like, full on self-pleasuring thing. It's because I'm so great, look at what I'm doing. When it's bullcrap. You're doing nothing. You're actually dividing, being so horribly divisive, making the world more racist than what it is, because she's being racist. To be part of creating accessibility for generations to come. For new generations, this is their version of Tolkien. This is what my daughter will see of Tolkien's works. What? Is she so racist that she won't show the original Lord of the Rings films to her daughter because there's no black people in it? Holy crap!
But this isn't Tolkien's work. This is
It's not.
fiction.
No, this is not
Faux
Tolkien at
fiction.
all. This is subversive replacement crap where they're trying to replace Tolkien's work, and it is garbage.
And it just goes to show the quality of the original works as well as the original Peter Jackson movies that they can't.
Yeah, they
no
can't
one's
really.
gonna forget them.
But this looks like a direct admission that she's not going to show her daughter the other works of Tolkien because it doesn't have black people. That is unbelievably racist. This actress is a vile, horrible person. I'm just saying, by what she's saying here, everything like that. They have this insane, unhinged activist that is co-opting and using the platform and exposed voice she gets from the role to just push this disgusting ideology and agenda. It is despicable.
And what is the ideology? Communism with race.
She continues, this is a reflection of the world we live in. Hang on. Let's go back. What were they saying here? Every single choice we've made at every turn of making this show has been to fulfill that aspiration. What was that aspiration previously? To reflect the world. It was very important to us that it was not allegory, he was not communicating historical events of our time, he was not trying to transmit a message that spoke to contemporary politics. He wanted to create a mythos that was timeless and would be applicable. That was his word, applicable to... So, and then it's like, all right, creating the world of Tolkien, and then right here, this is a reflection of the world we live in. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, people. Unbelievable. There are many, and we are different, and we will embrace and discover and peel back and learn and educate and be educated. That is...
Peel back.
That is awful. That sounds terrible. That's like something a dictator wanting to conquer the world would say.
No, that's something they do in a... Why can't I make a circumcision joke?
It's gross and crass.
Okay, fine. No circumcision jokes. Cut that.
And we can only do that when we embrace and love our differences, says the lady who will not show original Lord of the Rings to her daughter because it doesn't have black people. Yeah, she's embracing and loving differences, isn't she? Full of friggin' crap.
She's embracing and loving her difference from the original work. Well, the proper work, the actual Tolkien.
And listen to how much she is just like, loving herself. To be the poster child and to fly the flag, being a mother, being a woman, being a person of colour, being a curvaceous woman, being a fat woman, she means, deemed as a thing of beauty is something we always see. We don't always see, I mean.
I kind of like her a bit curvy, man.
Well, it's just a dwarf. The thing is, though, that's the whole body positivity movement where you must find fat women attractive, basically. It's like, no. You can find curvaceous... depends on the woman, really.
Determine fat for me. What percentage?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
15 to 20% will be my...
I'm a bit chunky. I would consider was fat. Yeah.
I just want something that might smother me if I'm not careful. Something actually dangerous. I like to look dangerous.
But that's the thing. You can find curvaceous women attractive, but the push in these, you must find all... and we're talking about massively morbidly obese people. You must find them attractive. Like, no, that's unhealthy.
Yeah,
and
not rotund.
I think Like, I was fat, and yeah, I'm more attractive when I'm not. Okay? My wife still loved me. She's a wonderful person, okay? Because you end up falling in love with the person, not necessarily their body. That's the vanity that the world tries to push.
I look at old videos from when I first started here where I was really skinny, and I don't like how I look. I feel like I look like Smeagol then.
I actually kind of agree.
Yeah, thank you.
You look better with a rounded out face.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I've got a fat head.
I saw it's just something like, I don't know, dishonest ferret.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. You couldn't trust me. You probably shouldn't still. But
That
me
was
being
really
plump
mean.
and jolly.
Yeah, it's just like a happy, jokey,
I'm
jolly,
going to go eat a cake after this.
jolly person. But no, she's like, I'm the poster child, flying the flag, being a mother, being a woman, being a person of colour, because mother, women, people of colour have never been in cinema, guys. There's just never been. Being a curvaceous woman is seen as a thing of beauty. It's like, no, curvaceous women have been seen as things of beauty in the past, not to the extreme of obesity and stuff.
But the Roman beauty standard.
Oh yeah, there's the Renaissance.
Really
but
good.
Hey, look at Gina Carano. She was a bit curvy.
Yeah, she's curvy.
In Mandalorian, people love her. She's a beautiful woman. Okay, but the other thing that makes this woman particularly vile in appearance to me is her attitude. She's an awful person, and that reflects on the appearance as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just shocking. This whole article she's talking about the show, and doesn't even mention anything about, I really enjoyed working on the story and the characters' involvement. It was all, I'm a black woman, and I'm here, and I'm so happy.
And everything else was bad, and I'm redressing the imbalance.
Yeah.
Me.
I've got to play Dwarf's advocate.
Okay.
It is highly likely that she's been told by Amazon or whoever's doing the show's media stuff, hey, say these things.
Possibly.
It is, I think it's highly possible.
So that image of Deezer, that is one of those things.
Deezer?
The queen is. That is one of those things personified in a face, and it happens to be my face.
Why do they choose
She's
these
so
names?
full of herself.
Deezer? Reaver? That's not a black woman's name.
But the thing is, like, dwarves, for the mythology and the background of what it's based on in Lord of the Rings, no, there shouldn't be black dwarves, unless Tolkien explicitly wrote in another land or something like that. Same with elves and everything like that. This is tied to a literal ethnic heritage, and it's an insult to the purpose and the culture that it's based on to co-opt it and force your diversity into it. This is disgusting as trying to make a historical black person white and everything like that. But they do it even in historical figures. You saw that, was it Anne Boleyn?
Anne Boleyn, yeah. Riverton, they did it. They also did it in, there was a Viking king called Harkin. A Viking king changed to a black woman. So not only do they change the gender completely, but they...
Yeah, it's everywhere. And so, oh no, we trust us. We're reflecting Tolkien's world. Lying bullcrap.
But do you notice the naming convention? Deezer, Reaver, I'm sure if we looked, there'd be tons more like that. They're not a black name, and also it's not a dwarf name. Like Gimli, what was his name again? Who was the first dwarf, the king?
Gloin, Gimli, Balin.
Balin, that's what it was. Balin, like...
My cousin Balin.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But Deezer. It sounds like a Bob the Builder character. Scoop, lock in Deezer, and roll
I don't know, I think the name doesn't bother me.
It bothers me. I'm angry now.
The cast member also praised the diversity within the cast, which was present in Tolkien's original source material.
The cast praised their own diversity? Yay, we're a percentage of race. Woo!
It's like the Eternals all over again.
Yeah. Oh, man, that movie.
I'm just trying to think, when they say diversity, the diversity of the original Tolkien's works isn't the diversity that Hollywood is pushing, what they've injected into the thing. It's like, her cast members also praised the diversity within the cast which was present in Tolkien's original source material.
It was not.
They did have short people representation. Is that what she's mentioning?
Yeah, in the movies there was American, British, Canadian, Australian, Kiwi.
There was pretty diverse. I guess you're right.
Lots of women too.
Yeah,
playing the Riders of Rohan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, there was diversity.
They put beards on those women.
But guess what? That was just normal. That one, people all think all white people are the same, and that's not really diversity. So I know. Yeah.
Do you know the story about that? Right. When they were filming all the Riders of Rohan scenes when they used actual horses, there weren't enough men horse riders in the entire country of New Zealand to play the riders, so they just got women put beards on them.
Good on them.
Yeah. Diversity.
Yeah, my goodness. It is just full of crap. The show is a political, agenda-driven propaganda piece at the moment, with the veneer of Lord of the Rings, but it doesn't even actually look like the Lord of the Rings to this point now. It's just a skin suit.
Yeah, the skin suit.
Just to show some examples of how much Tolkien would despise this work, there is actually a letter in which he sent to some filmmakers who wanted to adapt Lord of the Rings. He read the script and he had some things to say. And so we're going to read out just some snippets from this. This is what is from what is called Letter 210. It's a letter to Forrest J. Ackerman, but he's addressing someone different who is, I think, the writer of the script, which is Zimmerman. But one of his first things he says is this one. The canons of narrative art in any medium cannot be wholly different, and the failure of poor films is often precisely in exaggeration and in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies. Woof.
So basically, you don't understand what I'm saying with my work. You
Yeah, like one of the biggest, he's saying essentially one of the biggest failures in poor film is precisely due to their exaggeration of the source material and the intrusion of unwarranted matter, meaning stuff that isn't supposed to be there. And look at Rings of Power, the intrusion of unwarranted things and them not perceiving where the core of the original lies. He could have literally written that to the creators of Rings of Power, like send this to them.
Could you imagine showing Tolkien the trailer for Rings of Power? As soon as he saw a brown person, he'd jump out of his skin.
And not because he would be fine with brown people in,
Well, he had them, yeah.
Exactly, but this is about English heritage, and he wrote it as it was.
You just wouldn't expect it. He gets brutal down the bottom in that one.
All right, this one here, is it? So this was some of Tolkien's feedback as well to this film adaptation. And he says, the person who wrote this has cut the parts of the story upon which its characteristics and peculiar tone principally depends, showing a preference for fights, and he has made no serious attempt to represent the heart of the tale adequately. The journey of the ring bearers, meaning that's the heart of the tale, the last and most important part of this has, and it is not too strong a word, simply been murdered.
Yep.
It did not represent his work or the heart of his story adequately enough, and it's flat out been murdered. This is interesting, right? Because he understood the characters and how he was obviously very passionate about making sure the characters that he wrote were represented accurately to who they were. Okay, that was his reaction to Tom Bombadil. What would have his reaction been to Galadriel? Or Elrond in Rings of Power? He would rage at the changes and the twisting and the co-opting that they've done to Galadriel. He would despise it.
I think this is evidence enough to say that Tolkien not only would he be on our side on this issue, but he would probably be on our side of the culture war, just because he's doing what we do, but he's doing it in fanciful language.
Yes. Well, he's a professor of languages, so his letters are written perfectly almost. Why has my account been entirely rewritten here with disregard for the rest of the tale? You've seen certain difficulties in representing a dark scene, but they are not insuperable. A scene of gloom lit by a small red fire with a wraith slowly approaching as dark shadows, until the moment when Frodo puts on the ring and the Ring King steps forward revealed, would seem to me far more impressive than yet one more scene of screams and rather meaningless slashings.
Wow.
That's scathing as well. It's just like, these guys, you don't understand story. You think just screams and slashing has impact. It's like, no, picture this, the wraith slowly approaching as a dark shadow increases, the moment where Frodo puts on the ring and the king steps forward revealed. What's interesting...
Jackson did that.
And
it was awesome.
It was amazing!
And then he talks specifically about that part when he puts the ring on and they're white instead of black. See, Jackson probably read this letter.
Probably.
I reckon he would have before
I really
it.
think so. Yeah. And that's I didn't realise that there were these types of parallels, and it seems like Jackson has gone out of his way to make that trilogy in line with what Tolkien wanted.
There are some accounts that it was actually a lot of editorial staff and people who were massive fans working with him, producers, that said, no, you cannot do this, and they fought him specifically that he shouldn't do certain things. At the end, apparently he wanted to show Sauron fighting Aragorn, and then they ended up changing it to the giant troll. Yeah, so
That would have been terrible.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, you can see because Peter Jackson did give us the Hobbit trilogy, guys. So it seems like he might have had a bit more help on the original trilogy.
Yep, restriction breeds creativity, and that's why the first three are so great. The disappearance of the temptation of Galadriel is significant. Practically everything having moral import has vanished from the synopsis. Wow. See, the temptation of Galadriel, she is not a perfect Mary Sue. Even Tolkien says that.
Yeah, but what I find interesting is that there is moral import in his story, and yet the people writing it are usually, like, when they're from Hollywood, these are immoral, hedonistic, horrible, like, just people who don't, and their moral compass is twisted and warped so bad.
And why are they in charge of all these stories?
Well, because Hollywood has been corrupted for ages. And,
But it just goes to show, right, like, even Tolkien specifically and argued with the person doing the script that Galadriel has a moment of temptation. She's not perfect,
Yeah, so something that Tolkien was very clear about in his desires for Lord of the Rings, right? And that he says, talking about the themes that he was wanting to do, it should be high, purged of dross, and fit for the more adult mind of a land long now steeped in poetry. But purged of the dross, meaning the baseness. This is why there isn't sexuality really in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. It was higher, more noble and stuff, and that was intentional.
Yeah.
I wonder what Rings of Power will be like.
They've got to have a sex scene. I think they've admitted that.
And specifically, Lord of the Rings was to be purged of the dross. Yet they're going to go out of the way and put that crap in.
Yep, it's high fantasy.
So Zimmerman, I think, or so, whoever wrote this, has cut out the end of the book, including Saruman's proper death. Ooh, because this wasn't in the Peter Jackson's trilogy.
In the extended cut, it was changed in the extended cut. He fell from the tower that he was in and died.
Well, he says, in that case, I can see no good reason for making him die. Saruman would never have committed suicide to cling to life. To cling to life to its basest dregs is the way of the sort of person he had become. If Z wants Saruman tidied up, I cannot see why, where so many threads are left loose. Gandalf should say something to the effect, as Saruman collapses under the excommunication, since you will not come out and aid us here in Orthanc, you shall stay till you rot, Saruman. Let the Ents look to it.
Okay, Jackson read this because that's basically exactly what happens in the extended version of Return of the King. They after the Battle of Helm's Deep, they all rock up at Isengard,
they're smashing everything, and you see him retreat into the tower.
No. That's Two Towers. This is specifically Return of the King.
Okay,
Gandalf, King of Rohan, Aragorn, Gimli. They all show up to find the hobbits there, and they're like, and Treebeard's like, young Master Gandalf, there's a wizard to deal with in the tower, and Gandalf literally says to him, your staff is broken. And Saruman's staff explodes in his hand. He's excommunicated from being a wizard. And then he gets stabbed and falls off and dies. And so that's what Jackson did. He guarantee you he's read that.
Okay, but it seems like his intention was actually let him die by rotting in the tower to his ending days. Yeah. So, because this thing, we've said that the Peter Jackson trilogy, Tolkien would have had issues with that because he was such a purist. And if you think then, how many issues would he have with Rings of Power because of how warped and mutated it is from what Lord of the Rings is meant to be? Tolkien would friggin' flip out.
He probably wouldn't be the biggest fan of the Peter Jackson movies, but I think he'd find a lot more things to like about the Jackson ones than this crap.
Yeah. And we'll end off on this quote. Okay. I would ask them to make an effort of imagination sufficient to understand the irritation of an author who finds, increasingly as he proceeds, his work treated as it would seem carelessly in general, in places recklessly, and with no evident signs of any appreciation of what it is all about. Just imagine that, people, because that's exactly what we're getting from Rings of Power. Oh my goodness! So they're trying to hide and damage control and hide what's really happening, doing damage control, but it's failing because it's all cope, lies that is transparent. don't let them get away with it, okay? Don't let them fool you. This is a very agenda-driven, politically driven piece of media that they want to draw people in with the dangly keys. You like Lord of the Rings, right? And there are warning signs and red flags everywhere.
Yeah, we like Lord of the Rings, and this Amazon crap is not Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. But this is exactly why we hold the watch and why you must always stay watchful.